All right, let's take a look at this story now. There's a huge celebration of natural hair movement in Janine Jellars' new offering titled The Big South African Hair Book. After a decade of extensive research, writings, consultation and advocacy for the natural hair community, Jellars says this book offers a very small contribution to the country's hair conversation. And she does not hold back from her own personal journey to her stances on hair foods and relaxers, as well as her take on the natural hair versus weave discussion. Well, to tell us more about what this book is all about and why she wrote it, Janine Jellars joins us now via Skype. Janine, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, Janine. It's good to have you on the show this morning. Now, the South African Hair Book, what is this book all about and why was it so important for you to put it together?
Well, I think all of us can relate that it feels like every 2 to 5 business days, there's some furore about natural hair in South Africa, you know. We saw it last year in the Clicks incident, but it certainly wasn't unique. And I thought, you know, it's about time that we as women, people in South Africa who value natural hair come together and actually put our stories down in one book so that we also control a part of the narrative.
Well, there's been lots and lots of debates and conversations surrounding the natural hair. Speak to us about how you explore this concept in the book.
Well, I start the book with my own personal hair journey, just looking at, you know, starting out as a young girl where the idea of having relaxed or straightened hair is seen as the norm, all the way into my 20s where I started experimenting with all kinds of different types of natural hair. And I've interviewed about 30 women, everyone from brand owners to natural hair influencers, scientists, hairstylists, to discuss their hair story as well and to give me their point of view. The book is as much a debate and an exploration into natural hair as well as it is a hair care guide. So I've kind of brought all these disparate ideas into one book to give people an overview about not only the natural hair community, but best hair care practices, tips and tricks, and you know, just some core advice from some of the leading voices in the community across the country.
Let's talk about your own journey and memories of your natural hair. I mean, you begin the book with you, aged 5, in a salon to do your unruly hair that took about an hour to submit.
Yes, so I start the book talking about, you know, a story that I think very many South African women can relate to. The first time I found myself in a salon chair was I was part of a family wedding. And I don't know who was more unhappy that I found myself there, myself or the stylist, you know. She just found herself with this little girl with this massive hair having to create, you know, I'm going to age myself. This was the 80s, having to create these sleek curls. And, you know, I just take it from there, talking about experiences that I think, as I said, we can all relate to, you know, having your hair washed in a vascom at the outside tap, to being a young lady or a teen with relaxed hair, and then started to question if this is even something that I wanted for myself, and discovering different techniques and different types of ways of doing my hair.
Yeah. And Janine, there's a section in the book dedicated to sharing tips, advice, tricks, and you know, those looking to embark on a natural hair journey. Why was this important for you to include in the book, especially when there's the internet for that?
So I think, yes, the internet does exist, and influencers, natural hair vloggers, they do a great job of teaching you the how-to in terms of styling your hair. But often, you know, I get stopped in the mall, I get stopped in the beauty aisles, people send me emails, DMs, and they feel overwhelmed by the information that's out there, and they don't really know where to start. They don't know what are the gimmicks and what are the tried and tested pieces of advice. So I take a perspective that let's start at understanding our hair. Let's take a science-based approach and really break down the core things we need to know, you know. It's super frustrating to endlessly Google and find yourself nowhere, back at square one. So I thought it's best for me just to take my years of experience and put it into one hair care guide that people can use as a reference.
Yeah, and I found it interesting and very informative, your decision to include the Q&As with the natural hair community. Speak to us more about that.
Yes, so as I said, I start with my story. And yes, while all our stories are important, I felt I needed to get a broader view. And I interviewed many types of women, everyone from TV personality Bridget Masinga to some of our better known hair vloggers, like Kabuli Ngali, who was one of the first bloggers in South Africa to talk about natural hair. And they take me through their journey, where did they start their hair journey? What is it about natural hair that's important to them? And what are some of the tips and tricks and even obstacles, challenges that they've experienced through the years in dealing with their hair. And I wanted to give that overview that, yes, while it's my story, it's their individual story, we have a collective story in South Africa about hair as well.
Yeah, and I've mentioned that you've been writing about hair for about 10 years now. Speak to us about how your views around natural hair have evolved over the years.
Oh, I think I'm a lot less draconian in my views about natural hair. I think for me it's important that no matter what you choose to do with your hair, even if you do choose to relax your hair, even if you do choose to only stay in wigs and weaves, it's really important for me that you understand how to best take care of your hair no matter what state you wear it in. And I think the first step in understanding how to take care of your hair is that education layer. So for me, it's important that if you do have the information to share, that you share it. And that's kind of the ethos behind this book. I don't judge anyone for their hair choices. I just feel it's important, whatever you do, let's move the conversation forward and have the healthiest hair possible, and understand the principles behind taking care of your hair. I think it can help the industry as a whole as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. I'm sure it can, Janine. And this fascination and passion you have about creating conversations about hair, where does it come from?
Oh, I think it comes from my own struggles. I have been through it. I have seen everything. I've experienced everything. I've cut it all off. I've grown it back. I've bleached it. I've dyed it. I've locked it. I've done everything with that one could do to a head of hair, and my hair is still standing. And I think I just wanted to share some of those experiences with women across the country as well. On one hand, it is just hair, and on the other hand, it says so much about us.
Right, right. And it's clear that this book is definitely going to fuel conversations around natural hair. What sort of feedback have you received from those that have read it? I've
got so many women come back to me and speak about the relatability of the stories in the book. They see themselves and their own struggles and their own stories from the time they were young girls all the way to mid-30s or in their 40s. I've had people tell me, finally, a book of this length is out there where they feel they can find the advice they've been looking for. I can understand why people have hesitated in putting a book like this together, because it can be quite fraught in a country like ours. But I just hope that when people read it, they find that sliver of validation in the book, and they gain an understanding of, how other women experience their hair, how other women are dealing with their natural hair as well.
And being a self-proclaimed naturalista, what would you say are some of the biggest natural hair trends at the moment?
So what we're seeing a lot of, defined curls are in. You can see it in which kind of products are being sold. So you're seeing sales in gels are really spiking of late. You can see over lockdown, a lot of women had to learn to do their own hair because salons were closed. So you're seeing that thirst for knowledge and that thirst for education and that thirst for that DIY ethos of natural hair coming back. So I'm hoping that it sparked a much bigger interest in natural hair, and it sparked an interest in, taking your hair into your own hands and not necessarily always running to the salon to get braided or to put on that wig or weave, but instead to just kind of, play with your own hair and see what you can and get done yourself in your own bathroom.
And where do we get a copy of this book?
It is in all major bookstores. You can find it at your exclusive books. You can find it online at your loot.co.za. You can find it at Bargain Book. If you're not in South Africa, you can find it on the Amazon Kindle store. So anywhere where you find, I have to punt it. You have to forgive me. Anywhere you find good books, that's where you can find it sold.
All right, Janine, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day further.
You too. Thank you. Thank you very much. Joining us there on Skype is veteran naturalista and author Janine Jellars, and we've been discussing her newly released offering titled The Big South African Hair Book. It is